alluded to, our next talk will take us up to Lake Erie and the Buffalo Harbor sturgeon population, and Jonah Withers from the Lamar Fish and Wildlife Office, all the way up from Pennsylvania, is going to present for us. Thank you, Jonah.
All right, so as Dimitri said, I'm Jonah Withers. I'm talking to you about Lake Sturgeon movement in Eastern Lake Erie. So Lake Sturgeon Acipenser fulvescens, as you've heard, is one of the largest, most long-lived freshwater species endemic to North America. So a really ancient species. It's distributed throughout the Mississippi River drainage, the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Hudson Bay area. But today's presentation is just going to focus in on Lake Erie. So giving you a little background, traditionally Lake Sturgeon were very culturally significant Aboriginal people. They supported a subsistence fishery. On here I've got a picture of, they called it the Sturgeon Moon that occurred late in August. So they're naming the moon after it. There's obviously an attachment and association with fish. And then in the early 1800s, when commercial fishermen started targeting other species in Lake Erie, they were seen as a nuisance bycatch. They were thrown up on shore left to dry. They were burned. They were fed to pigs because they were destroying the commercial fishermen's gear. So there's a real high disdain for this fish among commercial fishermen. But then in the mid-1800s, their economic value was realized. It became targeted for their roe, which was turned into caviar, and smoked flesh, so highly sought after. And in the previous presentation, there was throughout the Great Lakes, a great deal of harvest targeting these fish, but nowhere greater than in Lake Erie. It's supported the largest fishery throughout the Great Lakes, with 1 year having a surplus of over 5 million pounds of lake sturgeon taken out in a single year. So pretty stupendous numbers of lake sturgeon. So very heavy harvest paired with habitat alterations and contaminants led to a precipitous decline in the late 1800s and early 1900s, which ultimately led to trade protections and the listing of the species. So the current status in Lake Erie, they're listed as threatened in New York, Ontario, and Michigan waters, and then also federally in Canada, and then listed as endangered in Ohio and Pennsylvania waters. So in Lake Erie, currently, this is a figure that you may have seen earlier in Justin Child's presentation. The status of Lake Sturgeon in red. You can see Lake Sturgeon populations are thought to be extant in these areas, or extirpated in these areas. And the orange population status is still somewhat unknown. But we have remnant populations of Lake Sturgeon in the St. Clair Detroit River system. Pretty large, healthy one over here, and then a somewhat smaller one on the eastern end of the lake by the Niagara River and the headwaters of the Niagara River that I'm going to term the Buffalo Harbor area. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So just to give you an update of what's going on this end of the lake, back in the 1990s, US Fish and Wildlife Service put together a map of where lake sturgeon have been sighted throughout the Niagara River. So there's definitely some evidence that they're using this area. But it wasn't until 2011 when DEC received some tips from local anglers that sturgeon were congregating at the headwaters. They did some exploratory gill netting, and sure enough, were able to catch some sturgeon in that area, and have been able to date. So just to recap, Upper Niagara River, there were sightings in the 1990s. At the headwaters, Buffalo Harbor area, 2011 to present, there's actually been a catch. And the catching of the sturgeon is led by a partnership with the US Fish and Wildlife and New York DEC, where US Fish and Wildlife Service came on in 2014 to try and help New York DEC and other folks answer some questions relating to that group of fish's status, and then hopefully answer questions that would help with the future management and recovery of this group of fish. And some of the questions we thought we could answer pertaining to this group would be range, habitat use, spawning periodicity, movement, migration, behavior. And the tool that we plan to use was acoustic telemetry. And I know some people have touched on it already, but just to give you a little run through for those of you who aren't familiar, acoustic telemetry can be defined as the use of sound waves to convey information from one location to another. equipment that's used is generally an acoustic receiver paired with an acoustic transmitter. The transmitter is inserted inside the fish, and it emits a sound wave that's carried through the water at a specific frequency. It's heard by the receiver and decoded. So just a brief simulation of what's going on. You have two types of acoustic telemetry, active telemetry or passive telemetry. Active telemetry, you put a transmitter inside of your fish, and then you manually either chase this fish around or try and figure out where it is, so you're manually tracking it. Alternatively, there's passive acoustic telemetry, where you put a number of these receivers out in the environment, and then later, as the fish, after it's been tagged, it swims past these receivers. The transmitter will ping, and if it's in the vicinity of that receiver, the receiver will take a note of when it passed by. Much like an easy pass is a great analogy Dmitry Gorski's used before, which I thought was great. So now that we know how it works, what we did was in 2015 we deployed 35 receivers in the Buffalo Harbor area since the lake sturgeon were being caught here by this break wall at the headwaters. They were spaced a kilometer apart, and we put one receiver up in the upper Niagara River as well. 2016, again, we put the 35 receivers out. We also put out a series of gates or curtains, sometimes referred to, in the upper Niagara to see if the sturgeon are moving in that area. Again, the sturgeon are coming from this area here. They're being captured and tagged. So if we zoom out a little bit, this is the array that I was just showing you before, but as you can see, there's a number of receivers throughout Lake Erie, and this is actually other people's acoustic telemetry work. This is known as the GLaDOS network, or Great Lakes Acoustic Telemetry Observation System, and it's a collaboration of researchers who are using acoustic telemetry to put receivers out in the environment to monitor movement. So essentially, if our fish leave our array and move into someone else's array, they'll share the data with us. We have much greater spatial coverage of where these fish are going, which would help us answer questions about range and activity outside of our array. And it also extends into other areas of the Great Lakes too. So it's a really great collaboration that's going on. So the fish were captured. We made a small incision, inserted the transmitters, sutured them up, and let them go. And this table is a summary of what was caught from 2014 to present, which is when U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service came on. So the numbers that aren't in parentheses are the total catch, and the numbers in parentheses are the sturgeon that have received transmitters. So in the yellow, you can see the females. In total, we've only captured 6 females in the last 3 years, and only 3 have gotten transmitters. A lot of males are pretty sexually skewed. But in total, 103 sturgeon, 54 have received transmitters. Today, for the presentation, I'm just going to focus on these 19 fish. It's 2 females and 17 males. At the end of the year, we pulled up our receivers and got to look at the data and see where these fish were going. So getting the results of just in Buffalo Harbor. Again, here's our array. The way our initial look at things was I decided to go through the seasons. So on a monthly basis, you can see all 19 fish are really lining up along this break wall on the eastern end of our array. And interestingly, we saw a similar trend in 2016. In June, it's a little bit more dispersed, but all fish are still in the array. But again, a similar trend across years too. July, we see a congregation starting to form up on the northwest end of our array along the southern portion. And a similar trend in 2016, which is starting to become interesting. August, again, strong grouping up the northwest corner in both years, and the same in September too. So some really interesting seasonal movement here in just our first 2 years with the data. But when we look at outside of our array, throughout Lake Erie as a whole, this is our array here with the white receivers. The blue dots here represent GLaDOS receivers, so other projects that are going on in the lake throughout the eastern basin. And we look at our 19 fish, all 19 of them were detected in our array in 2015, 17 of which made it out to the Sturgeon Point line, 4 made it out to the Dunkirk line, and 2 of which were detected all the way out to the Long Point line. So some pretty large-scale movements. And if we look at one of those sturgeon that made some large distance movements, before I get out of there, none were detected in the upper Niagara River. But just looking at one of those males that did some large scale movements. Just kind of hung around between our array and the Sturgeon Point line. And then in the middle of August, it went out to the Dunkirk line. 10 days later, it's at the Long Point line. In 2 days, it's already back at the Dunkirk line. And 2 days following that, it's at the Sturgeon Point line. So this is just demonstrating that they're moving pretty large distances over a relatively short period of time. 2016, again, our 19 fish are found in our array, which is great. 16 of them made it up to the Sturgeon Point line. 1 made it up to the Dunkirk line, and 0 were at the Long Point line. So, and 0 up in the Upper Niagara River as well. Just a kind of brief summary. All of our sturgeon are hanging out in the Eastern Basin. They haven't left the basin at all, even though we do see some large-scale movements. What I think is even more interesting is that there's really high site fidelity to the Buffalo Harbor or headwaters area. All of our sturgeon are spending the majority of the time in this pretty localized area. And that's where they're all being captured too. Which really raises some questions about this area. How come they're not going into other portions of the lake? So I'd like to propose a theory I'm calling the core population area. And I'd like to suggest that the Buffalo Harbor area or the headwaters of this is very suitable habitat for sturgeon, where sturgeon densities are most likely the highest there, and they're the most resilient to population decline because of the suitable habitat. And as that population would grow, theoretically the densities would become large enough that there would be spillover and these sturgeon would make their way into other tributaries or other areas with suitable habitat. But that might not be the case, even if they were to move into areas where they were historically found. That habitat may no longer be suitable, and this touches on, there was a great presentation by Justin Shia earlier today with the Maumee River. Sometimes more assessment might need to be needed for habitat remediation or stocking efforts. So these are some interesting questions that we're going to try and get after. Which gets us kind of to what we're trying to do in the future is figuring out what makes the Buffalo Harbor area so special. Is it substrate? Is it flow? And then why are they congregating there? And what makes it so special? What's special about this area? And how much of this area or how many sturgeon can occupy this area? What are the densities of sturgeon? And are we reaching those limits? Are we going to eventually hit a growth rate? There hasn't been much harvest for a number of years. So theoretically, there could be spillover. And if there is spillover, is there habitat that's suitable in the other tributaries throughout the Eastern Basin? Other questions that still remain are what's going on in the Upper Niagara River. We've been able to get anecdotal information from divers and other people and sightings that sturgeon do occupy the Upper Niagara River. But none of our attacked fish have actually moved up into that area. So are the sturgeon that are being seen there, are they the same group that are in the Buffalo Harbor area? Are they a different group? Are they a younger group? So still a lot of questions there. We saw some large-scale movements. How come some of the fish are moving out to the Long Point line and making those large migrations? What causes that? And then finally, what's going on over winter? All of this work that's been done is all through the spring, summer. We don't have any overwinter activity data to date, so that's where we're headed in the future. So just to summarize, sturgeon occupy different portions of the headwaters across different seasons. We saw seasonal variability. They did make some large-scale movements, but there was pretty good site fidelity to the Eastern Basin, and more specifically to the Buffalo Harbor area, which may represent the core population area where sturgeon densities are highest. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge all of our partners and our funding agency, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Reporters with your receivers, like when they moved out, did you know what temperature and DO were doing at that time? And then also the other that one side of the harbor?
Yeah, we do have some of that data. We haven't been able to analyze it yet. And the majority of the transmitters that were inserted in the fish do emit a signal that also records the temperature too. So we have the actual temperatures that the fish are experiencing too. So we'll get into that eventually.
you seen any movement of the muskies from the sturgeon through the gaps, the north gap or the south gap into the harbor area?
That's a really good question. There were some, so there were a few receivers deployed up in the Buffalo River area, a bit further up. No detections up there, but there isn't, there are no receivers behind, so we can't tell if they're going to
Jonah, do you have, any of these fish, I'm assuming with the array, you should be able to see like daily where these fish are at, right?
Yes.
Should be able to find detections and through time. Are there gaps in those data set where those fish could be potentially migrating into the river? And is there any kind of a pattern that's associated with that? I'm assuming your, sort of next steps are to look more fine scale into what's happening in the upper river if you're, following potentially next to figure out if they're spawning in the system, right?
Yeah, sure. So just to get back to the river, I think, so there were a number of times where these fish would leave our array, and sometimes they'd show up on this line here, which was great. We could tell that they were between these two. And in 2015, we only did have one receiver in the upper Niagara River and never detected any fish. And we did some range testing there. It did have good range, so we had pretty good coverage. And in 2016, we bolstered this with a heck of a lot more receivers. We didn't have any detections at all. So there is a possibility that this portion of the area here, there's very high flow there. We don't have any coverage. They could be using just downriver of the headwaters could be very important to them, but we don't have any monitoring there. We're hoping to do some manual tracking in that area too. But yes, we do need to look into the data a bit more on a finer scale.
I guess you kind of answered, the other train of thought that I'm having with this is that we have a similar behavioral pattern with the upper St. Clair, where these fish are exhibiting an outlet spawning behavior, where they're actually moving, down to their spawning site, which is the flow. And conventional literature suggests that these fish are moving up, and then the larvae drift down. In a system like this, from an evolutionary standpoint, it really kind of makes sense that these fish are holding to the highest portion of this river, and it would not be advantageous for them to spawn right close to the waterfall necessarily.
Right.
Because you don't get to replace mom and dad if they're on the other side.
Yeah.
So, you may be, I think you're onto something, and I guess in some ways it probably shouldn't be surprising that they're not this high migration drifting down into lower portions and navigating closer and closer to the falls. I don't know what the distance is in kilometers, but it's not that long, right?
That's right.
So, and
yeah, speaking plainly, I do believe that they are staging up here because we are getting them very close to sexual maturity. They're expressing gametes, so I believe that they are staging here, but potentially spawning just downriver of our array, which we're hoping to get after with some more receivers and manual tracking. But I think there's great habitat there, and that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can put an answer to it.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. 2 more minutes.
I guess that kind of answers my question. How many of the fish that you telemetered were gravid?
Nearly all of them were sexually mature adults.
Really?
They are all adults. But again, all of them are all the female. We only have 3 females, so it's very sexually skewed. So if you want to get into questions about reproduction and looking at the population growth and movement, we're pretty limited in that aspect.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jonah.